It's January 1st, 2024. Happy New Year. I am at Joel Pearl. It's time to get in the weeds as we do every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at 10 a.m. Eastern on Fightful Overbooked. Today is a little different. We are the first people you're going to hear from in the new year. I'm so sorry, but it is our monthly Monday main channel takeover. Jeremy and I are typically over on youtube.com/FightfulOverbooked, but at the beginning of every month, on the first Monday of that month, we are here on youtube.com/Fightful to call it like it is, get in the weeds, do everything we need to. You got, thumbs up, fireworks. We got festive fireworks for the new year and everything. And Jeremy Lambert, I'd be remiss if I didn't pay homage to those who left the business in 2023 with an array of camera cuts, camera cut, camera four, camera 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 2. Jeremy Lambert's here. Happy New Year, buddy. How are you feeling?
Happy New Year. I've been down since day one-ish. That's a banger song. We're both fighting here under the weather, to let everybody know. People who have long time in the weeds fans of the past week will know that I've been battling for about a week, a pretty bad cough that has not stopped, and Joel got sick over the weekend. But you know what, Joel? We are here to talk the professional wrestling with everybody. I hope everybody had a happy and safe New Year's. You had a good weekend if you watched AEW Worlds End on Saturday. You enjoyed that show. And yeah, on Sunday, whatever you did, if you hung out with your friends, your family, your loved ones, just as long as you were safe. Happy New Year, everyone. Here's to I'll cheers. There's my coffee. I'll cheers everybody to a happy 2024.
We hope for the best, and we are only going to do ours.
We're not gonna do our best. We're gonna try, but we might fail. That's okay too. It's okay to try and fail.
Yeah, we're mostly gonna phone it in. Who am I kidding?
Today. Today we got a big show, Joel Pearl.
Yes, today's a big show. We got plenty to talk about. AEW Worlds End was this past Saturday. A lot of things coming out of that, a lot of news coming out of that, a lot of conversations coming out of that, and we're gonna have. From Under the Ring, Phil Strum's going to join us at 11 a.m. It's a name that should sound familiar, especially if you were watching or listening or keeping notes on the AEW World's End post-show Scrum. Phil asked some very important questions, some very pertinent questions about what was going on in the world of AEW, and some of the answers that he got definitely elicited some reactions from the wrestling world and beyond. So we'll have him on at 11 a.m. Eastern. We talked about World's End. We're going to talk about the show. We're going to talk about Day 1 Raw. That's tonight. We'll preview the show. We'll see who's coming back. Everyone's got ideas of who's coming back. Jeremy, right off the bat, who's coming back? Who's going to be the former world champion or the former champion coming back on Day 1 Raw?
Sid.
Allegedly.
Sid.
Good. Yeah, good. Sid? Okay.
This bit's going to pay off. It's going to be Sid. At some point, Sid will be the answer to the tease. It will be Sid.
And if it's not Sid, then you can leave a thumbs up right now on the video. Even if it is Sid, leave a thumbs up on the video. And of course, subscribe to us here at youtube.com/Fightful or over on our sister channel where we are live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, along with a plethora of other content over on Fightful Overbooked. And of course, you can donate a super chat, any amount, get your question or statement read on the air. Jay Miller sent us one actually before we went on the air. Is it fair to pay Mercedes Mone her asking price, even if it might start an uneasiness with the women since she walked out regardless of reasons in old regime in WWE? Specifically, the women WWE just re-upped. This is a very interesting question. And this is not one that I expected to start off with.
That's a good question, though.
It is a very good Miller. Yeah, so let's get into it. Fightful Selected reported that WWE and Mercedes Mone were in talks. Those talks have since ceased, at least for now. And there's expectations that maybe Mercedes will go elsewhere. Jeremy, just starting off with this question, I mean, what's the feeling about Mercedes and her asking price? Is that something that might upset people? Is it something that might encourage others? What were your thoughts?
It's fair for Mercedes to ask whatever she feels she is worth. She should ask for anything and everything she feels she is worth. It's also fair for WWE to not pay her under these parameters. Look, do I think they should pay all these people what they want and they're probably all underpaid? Yes. Absolutely. But I'm gonna equate this to sports because I do think the structure here works. You have the people who you view as your max players, and then I'll use hockey because hockey has a little bit of a more, it has a hard cap. I don't understand the CBA totally with basketball. It gets a little weird and everything. But like hockey, Nathan McKinnon of the Avs, like he's paid 10 million per year. He's paid 10 million. It's a little bit more than that, but I'm using easy numbers. He's paid 10 million, right? He's the best player on the team. He's one of the best players in the league. There's no doubt about that. We're paying him 10 million. Mikko Rantanen's contract comes up. Mikko Rantanen's really good. Scored 50 goals last year for the Avs. Definitely the second best player on the team. Second best forward. Kel McCarr is really good. Second best forward on the team. If Mikko Rantanen asks for 10.5 million, the Avs have every right to be like, we can't pay you more than Nathan because Nathan is the better player. He's the best player on the team. So they maybe want to pay him at 9.8 million. It works the same in WWE. Now, do I think that they should continue to establish a hierarchy? And I'm talking about the women. I'm talking about the wrestlers, men or women. If Charlotte is paid 10 million, do I think that Sasha Mercedes should ask for 11 million? Yes, 100%. And then Becky should ask for 12. And then whoever, they just keep going up, keep driving the prices up in that regard. But WWE has the right to say like, we're already paying Charlotte 10. We think she's our top star. We think she is the most deserving of this. We don't want to pay you more than her. So we're only going to pay you 9.8. I see both sides of this. I'm on the side of the performer, of the wrestler who should be just continue driving it up because that's typically how it works. It's like, okay, well, now you've paid this person this much. So now when this person's contract comes up, they're going to get this much. Now, Jay Miller brings up a very good point here of they just re-upped some of these women. We know Charlotte kind of just got re-upped. We know Becky's contract is coming up, right? So they're going to have to, they've already paid Charlotte. Whatever they pay Mercedes, don't pay Mercedes. Whatever they might pay Mercedes, they'd probably have to pay Becky more than that. So the re-up part is where it becomes interesting because maybe they don't want to, and this is where I think they kind of land, is if Mercedes asking for more than Charlotte, WWE, because they just re-signed Charlotte, doesn't want to be like, we're going to pay Mercedes more than you. Had Mercedes signed first, had she gotten 10 million and then Charlotte had gotten 10.5, then it'd be like, all right, you know what? Like Mercedes is still a little bit below Charlotte. Mercedes has every right to ask for more than Charlotte. She has every right to ask for more than some of the men on the roster. But I also understand WWE's position of this is going to be their hierarchy, their pecking order. It's how it works in all sports, everybody. This ain't exclusive to WWE.
Yeah, I agree completely. There's nothing more that I can add other than you as a talent know your value. They as a company have an idea of your value. There's something in the middle, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. That's the art of the negotiation. Oh god, I'm not going to use that stupid term, but that is what it is. And meanwhile, I just want to shift focus. Elias is now Elijah. He just posted,
good for him.
He just posted his escaping the prison video is actually digging up his past, quite literally. So Elijah is back. All the free agents are out.
Good for Elijah.
Good for Elijah. Listen, when he shows up in the next TNA battle royal that they'll do, maybe they'll do a reverse battle royal at Hard to Kill. Probably not, because at this point the card's pretty stacked. But either way, we'll see where he shows up. I'm looking forward to seeing where Elijah stands. But going back to Mercedes, what's really interesting to me is that there is no more vocal fan base for one person that I have ever seen in pro wrestling than for Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, whatever you know her as. And there are times where I wonder, is that good or is that not good? Because we see what some of the conversations are like. I don't think that plays into negotiations. I think that more plays into just the general feeling about having her or having a star like that. And everyone's feeling is different. So again, whatever your value is, that's your value. You believe that you are worth this much, you can believe it. It's selling it to the person or the company that you're trying to get signed by. That's what it really comes down to. And there's something, you're worth what someone is willing to pay.
Wrestling is obviously very different than like real sports, because real sports, you can look at numbers, you can look at impact of like how they're performing on the ice, on the court, on the field, whatever, right? And you can also look at like marketing numbers and things like that too, of driving revenue. Wrestling, you can look at like revenue driving numbers, but the performance it's subjective, right? Like some people find Sasha Banks to be a better performer than Charlotte Flair. Some people find Charlotte Flair to be a better performer than Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. Like, and then you're also basing off your push. Like, are you going to do title reigns? Well, title reigns, you gave them the title. It's not like they earned the title, won a championship. They earned it, but like they didn't have to win a championship to get it.
Yeah, but what if they just like, beat people up so bad that they deserve that title, that they were just like given the title? That's how it works, right? That's how wrestling works.
Well, you know what I'm saying though, right?
Yes.
Like there's no, like, the impact of LeBron James on a team compared to Austin Reeves on a team. They're both good players. LeBron James is way up here still. Austin Reeves is below him. You know that. Mercedes and Charlotte, I think Mercedes is a better in-ring performer, but Charlotte has way more accolades. She's way more pushed and everything. So how you quantify that, how you're going to quantify that. Wrestling, when it comes to contracts and stuff like that, that's where a lot of stuff can just get lost. And that's where it's the value that the people who are negotiating the contract see. You can make Mercedes Moné be worth all the money in the world. You can give her these title reigns. You can make her main event. You can give her substantial storylines. Or you can make her just a utility player and be like, no, we don't want to pay you this much because we're only going to push you this far. Oh, that's what it comes down to as well in wrestling. I think Mercedes is worth all the money in the world. I think she can be a crossover star for you. They didn't do nearly enough with the Mandalorian stuff with her. She is one of the best, if not the best, American female performer in the world. The LeBron analogy, I'm not comparing Charlotte and Mercedes to LeBron and Austin Reeves. I'm simply comparing that who is better between those two. That's the only reason for the comparison there. Please don't equate that to the actual wrestling. That's just, the impact of both people on there. That's all that is.
Yeah, we're using an extreme example.
Yeah, very extreme example. Charlotte and Mercedes are both LeBron there.
Oh, look at you. Now you're going to start. No, I'm just kidding. and again, it comes down to value, comes down to what everyone's willing to pay or be paid. So I'll just leave it at that. But I think it was a good conversation, a good opening salvo for us, because
pay all of these people, by the way. I want all the wrestlers to get paid.
This is the one thing about wrestling that's become so different in the last 25 years, is a little bit longer, is that we talked about this. This is no longer about the talent being the stars. It is the company being the star, at least in WWE's sake. WWE put a big focus on being the star of the show. It is a collaborative effort. Therefore, no one is, quote, bigger than anyone else. But internally, there are people who are bigger than anyone else. So, like, in other words, at the end of the day, you are a WWE superstar. You are not, Stone Cold Steve Austin going to another company. You are Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWE superstar. That's kind of where it is. Like, you see all these released talent. Again, we just made reference to Elijah. What's he doing? He's literally taking his WWE gimmick and he's just taking it back. And he's going to go out and do whatever he does with it. That's kind of where my brain is at. But yeah, we'll see where Mercedes lands. There's still a possibility that she lands in WWE. There's a possibility that she goes to New Japan and stays there for a little bit. There's a possibility she goes to AEW. TNA might want her. They could do, again, I said this when somebody asked me about what do you think about Mercedes and TNA. I said, look at Kushida. Kushida has a New Japan Pro Wrestling contract and a TNA contract. In other words, whenever Kushida is booked in the United States, TNA runs that booking, or at least gets him, like, they have first right of refusal. They can basically do a lot of the planning with his US dates. And then in Japan, he's with Japan. You can do the same thing with Mercedes Moné. That's up to her, and that's up to her expectations. But it also opens your calendar up to be working very, very different and very diverse types of dates if you want to. So that's one thing not to take away from the possibility of a Mercedes Moné in a place like New Japan and TNA. Even I'm not going to say MLW, but like MLW, I'm just saying those places that tend to book for they do 2 days worth of tapings per month, and then the rest of the time you're on TV every week, but it's already taped, so you're already on TV, and that's kind of a benefit. So we'll see where she lands. I'm interested, but there's a lot of free agents out there. We outlined a few over on FightfulSelect.com. Alexander Hammerstone being one of them. We talked about Elijah. Kevin Dunn just became a free agent. We just got a super chat about that. Let's get to it real quick. I wouldn't call him a free agent. He's just done with WWE. Will Chisholm sent a super chat saying, it feels like the Kevin Dunn news came out of nowhere, and if that don't show fans that Vince is not in the weeds, nothing will. Well, that's because we're in the weeds. That's because we are the ones who run the weeds. We are the weediest. And Kevin Dunn, yes, the big news last night, or actually 2 nights ago on Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday night. Oof,
during Worlds End.
Busy one.
From PW Insider, the news broke that Kevin Dunn is effectively done with WWE. Oh, I got to use that joke. That felt so good. Anyway, and honestly, there's nothing to add to this for me other than he's done. He's moved on.
Yeah.
By the reporting on Fightful Select, it feels like several people have been prepared to take over the things and the duties of Kevin Dunn over the last few years. And as a result, it's not going to be one person with power. It will be several people running that show, and that's fine with me. I would prefer that personally. I do wonder who's going to be those people. So we'll find out, I'm sure, in the coming days. But yeah, that's all I've got on the Kevin Dunn front.
I don't feel like there's too much to add. He was in the company for a very long time. I'm sure he did a lot of good things behind the scenes as far as production. I'm sure he also did a lot of, I don't know, like there was also the just the camera cut stuff. A lot of people were annoyed with how a lot of wrestling fans were annoyed with how he ran certain things. He was part of Vince's circle. A lot of stuff has come out about Vince's circle. It's, you know, I don't know. I don't know anything about Kevin Dunn. I don't know anything. So good luck.
Yep. Hey, listen, if he retires, great. You've done this job for 30 plus years. You deserve it. That's it. Jeremy Borash was someone that both in the chat and other people mentioned to me. Borash is very happily a senior video producer at NXT in the PC. I don't know if that's his plan for the future, but he's great at his job. That's something to keep in mind. But we'll see. We'll see who it is. There are a lot of changes going on in WWE right now, and I'm looking forward to that. Let's pivot back to AEW. Let's talk about the World's End pay-per-view. Again, we're going to have Phil Strum from Under the Ring at 11 a.m. Eastern, so we may as well talk about the show, and then by the time Phil gets here, I feel like we'll be transitioning into both the live experience and the press conference and what was and wasn't said at the conference. Where should we start? This was a mixed bag of a show, I think is how I could put it. Tony Khan's favorite website, cagematch.net, is all over the place as well. I think common consensus amongst fans is that the top 3 matches really delivered, and the rest of the card, it was a bit of a struggle. In the opening contest, by the way, the All-Star 8-man. So the All-Star 8-man right at the beginning of the pay-per-view, and then the last 3 matches, those were the ones that over-delivered. And then everything in the middle, it felt like it wasn't so great. What was your general thoughts? You watched, you covered it for the site, so you definitely have a very different outlook than a lot of fans who are only watching. You're doing a little bit more. What were your thoughts?
The vibes weren't good through the majority of the show. And by that, I just mean like the energy seemed down for a lot of this show, which I kind of understand. The build wasn't the best for a lot of these matches. And yeah, the energy was just really sort of down after the all-star 8-man tag. You know, there was the 8-man with Jericho where the energy picked up for the wrong reasons. And then otherwise it was just kind of really down. Finally, once Copeland and Christian came out, actual stars. I'm just kidding, everybody.
Wow.
I don't even like Copeland. um, but once they came out and started brawling through the crowd, then it really picked up. Eddie and Mox, which absolutely ruled. I love that match to pieces. I love that finish as well. That finish reminded me of just like a great UFC fight where the two men are just like slugging it out. And then finally, like one man just lands the big shot in the middle of the slugfest that puts the other guy out. So Bryan Danielson, we all know he's the GOAT. If you don't, you're wrong. Him on commentary, like breaking it down of like, we want to stay away from his striking. We don't want him to, we don't want to get into these slugfests. He set up that finish so well. Just all his comments throughout the match of like, no, we don't want to get into these kind of battles with Eddie. And then what does Moxley do? Get in that kind of battle. And what happens? He loses it. Oh, Bryan was so good. This match was so good. And the main event was good. And the energy was good for that because MJF was over in Long Island and people like Samoa Joe. So yeah, the last three really saved this thing. The energy was just, it wasn't your typical AEW energy that you see for a lot of really every single AEW show. It wasn't there. And part of it, I know people complain about the Nassau crowd just in general. I saw that complaint of like, well, Nassau's not a great crowd. And I think the other part of it is the build wasn't the greatest, and there was just, the vibes were off going into the show because of everything that was talked about online going into it.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that right now. We'll get a little bit into it with Phil because it did come up in the scrum. But yeah, the morning of the show definitely changed a lot of perspectives going into the show. Definitely changed, and this is the most frustrating part. If I'm in the AEW world, as if I'm employed by the company, is that every time there's a big show coming up, or every time there's like a big plan, something's going to happen, we're going to do a big reveal, it's going to be a really fun show, blah 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 blah, something happens, something inevitably happens, and it's so shitty that it does, because this was a show that I was looking forward to just sitting back, relaxing, watching and enjoying, and then going into it, I'm like, oh Christ, there's discourse, there's always going to be discourse, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I do like that in the final few matches, they didn't overstay their welcome. They didn't go too long in terms of in ring. You can make the case that maybe the Devil reveal took a little bit longer than it should have. I don't feel that way, but I know some people felt that way. But overall, I mean, Mimosa Joe winning the AEW World Championship was not on my radar, especially after Wednesday, when if you do go home math, if you're holding the belt by the end of the show and you're not the champion, well, you're not going to win the title. Well, we were wrong. Samoa Joe winning the title was a good deal. It makes sense because of MJF's injuries. He's banged up as hell. So now we're going to do that. But here's the other side of it. And then we'll talk through other parts of the card. The reveal. So they do the reveal. Adam Cole is the Devil. Surprised? No. Invested? Yes. Because everyone here has a story and something connected to MJF. And that's the way it should have been. Did they do the video of, how did we get here? No. Could they still do it? Absolutely. For those who were paying attention, this was a very, once you get into it, it's a very paint by numbers story, and that's fine. A very paint by numbers who'd done it. I wasn't expecting a swerve. I didn't want to swerve. I'm glad that the swerve was earlier, and we'll not talk about that match. But MJF dropping the title, Adam Cole being the Devil. I thought the reveal was well done. Another lights on, lights off segment, but this time it kind of worked. And MJF is the Devil, along with you have the Kingdom, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett holding the ROH World Tag Team Championships, and then you got Roddy Strong, and you've got Wardlow. Wardlow making that flight from London that's a big deal. Good for him. Really, really impressed by Wardlow.
He screwed up his own bit when he posted the double-decker bus with the All-In logo on it. It had the All-In banner. That's when he screwed up. Otherwise, like, he was doing well with that bit. But then when he posted the double-decker bus, it had the all, like, I know they're doing good promotion over there, but I don't think they're promoting All In 2023 still in London. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, they're behind, right? No, they're ahead. Who am I kidding? Speaking of ahead. World Z Zone is here.
Hello,
Happy New Year, boys.
Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year.
I just wanted to call in for a quick hit and run. I got my daughter's birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I've been a naughty boy the last 2 days, I'll tell you.
I can see it in your face.
It's crazy. I stayed up later for that scrum.
Oh, did you stay?
Dude, I was
I
there.
don't know why I didn't text you during the show other than the opening matches.
I was there. I did not say a word.
Oh, I could tell.
I did. People were asking, how come you didn't ask a question? Oh, I did not want to be involved in anything in that scrum.
Give me before, because Phil Strum's going to join us at 11.
Yes, Phil was there. Phil actually asked some real questions. I'll tell you. Phil,
and that was
Phil
the thing.
Was hitting them.
And that's the thing. We said that we were going to have the person who asks the most pertinent, hard-hitting questions. They're going to join us this morning. And
you didn't want Rich on to ask. You didn't want Rich on. Rich asked some really hard-hitting questions.
Oh, people were being mean to Rich from what I saw.
Listen, I'm like, that's his thing. That's what he does. I'm like, Rich isn't going to ask you any serious questions. He's asking. I'm like, first of all, he had a blast. He was happy he was there, and he genuinely is curious. He's not doing it for you guys. He's doing it for himself.
And that's what people like sometimes don't understand, especially the people who like, we want hard hitting stuff. We want hard hitting stuff. Sean has said this before, and I'll reiterate, is like people have different, I don't know, motives is the right word, but people have different motives of content. Yeah. Like some people, okay, are going to ask, like, let me ask you about this. And then other people are just like, hey, I just want to kind of know this. Not everyone in that room wants to be or is a quote unquote journalist. Like they're just
no. Honestly, I mean, I'm not a journalist. I was there. I'm a media personality. I want to see what it was like. I'd probably do it again. Maybe I'll ask a question next time. It was my first time there. I want to just shut up and listen and see how the process goes. The other thing is I know the answer already to the question that I'm not getting an answer to.
Yeah, he said it. He said it once. He was asked again directly. Repeated again, and then was asked again and again, repeated the same question. Like he ain't giving you anything more than you were getting at that point.
It's also, people need to realize it's also so freaking late. That scrum did not start till after 12:30.
Oh, this is my complaint. I was very mad.
I didn't leave there till 12:40, 2:40. I didn't get home till after 3:10.
Yep. Not everyone gets to sleep on the train, on the plane.
Not everyone gets to sleep on the plane. A lot of people are tired, but you ask the questions that you're going to get an answer to. It's a waste. Listen, I'm curious about the same thing that everybody else is curious about, but he's like, listen, I'm not going to comment on internet rumors, and that's it. That's his answer. Also, the other weird thing about that scrum is that it's half work, half shoot.
Yes, it's a kayfabe vortex. I say this every time.
It's a very bizarre thing because like it first started off and like everybody's in character. So, Samoa Joe is there and Tony Storm is there, and Tony's in character. Joe's in character. It's weird. Like I don't feel comfortable playing that.
You know what's really interesting? So Kate and I were there for Forbidden Door, and when we got there, we knew that we were tipped off that Will Ospreay was going to be part of the scrum. And they said, oh, get ready for Will Ospreay in the scrum. And people were like, oh shit, he's going to be in character. He's going to go nuts. And then he came in and was like the most authentic Will Ospreay we had ever seen. Yeah. And all I wanted to do was text the person who told us it's going to be, crazy Will Ospreay and be like, you were so wrong, bro. But no, that's the problem. It is a kayfabe vortex. And because you don't know ahead of time, and I don't know if this has changed. When you got in the room, did they tell you who was coming, or did they just say Tony will be here shortly?
No. We went in the room. Tony came out, and then Joe walked in.
Okay,
that was it. They didn't list anybody.
So they haven't changed.
There were people waiting there. Like Ricky was waiting there. He never went up.
Yeah, sometimes they're just hanging out.
He
because
lost.
Yeah,
he's a big old loser, so they don't typically talk to losers.
He got pinned too, so that makes him a double loser.
He did. Oh, I felt so bad for Ricky. Why are they taking? Why are this man taking these losses? Knock it off.
Story. It's hashtag the story. No, so that was the thing was with WWE. They if you ask them at the beginning, they will tell you who's coming out because it's again we've talked about the press conferences. The differences being WWE is like we're going to do this in X amount of time, and we're gonna have these people, and it's for this long. Like they segment it out, they plan it ahead. And AEW doesn't do that, for better or worse, because again, Tony will sit there until 5, 6 in the morning if he has to, taking these questions. But by the time you get to a certain hour, everyone's like, we're done. Did they give you any water this time?
What?
Did they give you a bottle of water?
No.
Sons of bitches.
No, I was dying.
To tell you, bottle of water. If you're watching and you work for AEW,
And, you can't even. You can't leave. You can't leave.
No, it's awkward.
I mean, you can, but it's so awkward.
It's like being the guy who leaves in the middle of a church service. You're in the middle of the sermon.
At one point, dude, and listen, I'm very grateful that I'm allowed that access. I'm very, and I do it again. But it was like a point. I'm like, I'm so freaking tired, and I'm like, I could pretend I got an emergency call. What happened? Who did what? I'll be right there. I'm like, Rich, get your stuff. We gotta go.
Could you imagine? You should do that, but pull out a banana instead. Just really play up the bit.
Listen, I thought it was a fun show. I enjoyed my time. I don't go to watch stuff that I'm not going to enjoy. I tend to always enjoy live shows that I'm at. I got 2 totally different shows. I was at the Garden on Tuesday, and I was at Nassau Coliseum on Saturday. And my God, what a different wrestling is a spectrum.
Yeah, it is. Does anything stand out to you about the just being there live? Anything that's like really, really worth noting from what you saw?
The building was a lot louder than what I heard, what I saw on TV.
Okay.
Swerve got a tremendous reaction. The Jericho stuff, like the chants and stuff, I didn't hear as much, but the longer the match went, the more people started booing him. I don't know if it came off that way on TV. I haven't watched that match.
Yeah, it did. You could hear the boos. That was honestly the loudest reaction up until the final 3 matches. I thought
The
that was
final 3 matches were fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a brief CM Punk chant at one point during that match.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Like that came across on TV. It was very, very brief. It was like when Sammy went to the top rope or something. Like it was very brief.
Max was over. I thought Max's response in the building was way, way louder than what I saw on TV also.
That seems to be the going concern, is that what you see on TV isn't reflective of the audience in the building.
Yeah. People didn't. I don't know how the finish came across, but I don't think people realized that was the finish.
That's typical.
The way that it ended.
That's typical. Is the audience? It's always like the people in the front 2-3 rows. They see it, they react to it, and then it kind of just ripples out. This is one of those cases where I was okay with it because it was such a surprise. Not everyone, a lot of people said that MJF was going to retain and that we're going to keep this going. But instead, having Joe tap him out, having Joe lay him out was a really good finish. I was a fan of it because I saw what the intended reaction was, and I think they got it.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was interesting because it was an elite-less show. And it was the first pay-per-view that they've done that.
Yes, that is something.
I thought at one point Hangman maybe would come out with the Swerve thing. The Bucks weren't there, obviously. I thought that was interesting. It was a fine show. I mean, way too long.
That's all of these shows.
It's unnecessary. It really is. And I've asked this. I'm like, why do we go to midnight?
If and when they go to a monthly product, I think then the pushback is a lot. No, I'm saying then I think people would give more pushback to the idea of cutting the shows down by some time.
I mean, dude, we got 8.
I think
AEW shows and 3 Ring of Honor shows.
I think if they go to the Sunday, which most of the shows nowadays are on Sunday, I think if they do the Sunday model, yes, I think the pushback will be there. The Saturday shows are going to midnight. It's very tough to justify going, even though like they run holiday weekends, and so it's like, well, everybody has Monday off anyway. It's like, they run until midnight, and then the press conference lasts until 3 a.m.
Listen, UFC's the same way, right? UFC ends at around 1 o'clock.
But that's on Saturday. Again, that's a Saturday show.
That's a Saturday.
Yeah.
I that's the only thing. I always feel like it's like 45 minutes too long, these shows.
Well, yeah, I could listen. I've said it online. I was like, Swerve and Dustin Rhodes, since that was the call, that could have been a 7-minute segment, not a 15, 20-minute match.
It could have been a
Hey,
4-minute segment. Yeah, it could have been 4 minutes.
Right.
Could have been 2.
Was
You know, but I think people in the building enjoyed it. They liked the show. It was a fun show. I haven't
Joel,
sat.
what are you doing?
It's hard when you're at a
Joel's
live
gonna
show
get
to
in trouble.
gauge. What? Is Joel dying?
Yeah,
No.
Joel's sick. Joel's just doing a line on the table. It's fine.
Yeah, Joel's gonna get in trouble
already, dude. It's the first.
Gotta start early, brother.
It's early.
I got I'm cleaning the house now. For my daughter's birthday, but it was great. I had a fun time. But I always have fun times at shows. Like I don't hate watch. I really don't. Like I really enjoy what I enjoy, and if I'm going to something, I'm not going there to have a miserable freaking time. I'm going there to enjoy my time because my time's valuable.
Yes.
Would I say it's the best show? No, definitely not. On the gauge of best AEW shows, which is probably All In 2021, right? That would be considered their best pay-per-view.
All Out, yeah.
All Out. I'm sorry, All Out. Yeah. I don't know, somewhere in the middle. I don't think it was their worst.
What's the cage match rating? How is that rating compared to the rest of the? I feel like according to Cage Match, like it is their worst pay-per-view.
According to Cage Match, it is their worst. But here's the problem, right? Watching it live, I have such a different experience that I can't even honestly gauge what that show was like because you guys see something totally different on TV. It's only happened one time in my life that I watched the show live and I've watched it again. I attended live and then I watched it again on TV and I was like, oh yeah, this is comparable. Was that All Out show? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, listen, if you were at home and you're watching this, I could see how you were not too pleased. I hated the ending. I hated the devil stuff.
Really?
Not a fan of it.
Why?
I don't like the Adam Cole and Max stuff.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But did it not surprise you? But like when it happened, what was your initial reaction? Were you just like, okay, that happened? Or was it like, oh, okay.
I was spoiled to it, but I thought that there was another element to it. Like I already knew what was happening.
Right. But Jake Hager wasn't there, so you were upset.
Who?
Jake Hager wasn't there, so you were upset.
No, but can I tell you about the stooge test that was given to me? Somebody from that company told me somebody else.
Okay.
Okay. And I was convinced it was a stooge test. And I didn't say a word publicly on that name. And it wasn't the name that I was told.
What was the name? Can you say it now?
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
Okay, can you put it in the private?
Yeah. I'll text you guys. Yeah.
All right.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I don't want to say it because it may lead to, you know what I mean? I promise that I'm not spoiling too much wrestling this year. That's my New Year's resolution.
That's awful.
Just don't talk about wrestling. That's my New Year's resolution.
You know what? Can you imagine? I just keep doing these shows and I just talk about how I was going to be a power forward for St. John's University.
I wanted you to ask about the Pistons winning. They won on Saturday. That was the real biggest news on Saturdays. The Pistons ended their losing streak.
I would say that there was Tony's hat of choice was not great, but I don't think I think he was just having fun. He had a big show. It was a success. They were sellout. I think Tony put the hat on. He was having fun with Tony. I think he maybe forgot that it was still on.
I think he forgot it was still on. And also, I don't know if he necessarily expected that question at that time.
Yeah, because it wasn't his time, because he waits till the end that you ask the questions.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, how come nobody's asking? Like, I'm seeing like the live. I'm like, it's kind of disrespectful to the talent that's there to kind of sway away from the questions for the talent. And there's how much a question are you going to ask if someone's in kayfabe? Julia Hart is there, and she's in character. She's not like she's half in, half out.
Yeah, I think she's partially in character, but she just also gives like very short answers.
And that's fine. I mean, Tony made up with his.
Oh, he always does. Everything's great. AEW's great.
Yeah, listen, he had his bullet points. The ratings are doing great. The ratings are up. The ratings are going up.
Safest
was the
place
most
to work.
successful week for them since All In Week. You know, he had those were the bullet points. That was his mission statement for this press conference. I listen to these all the time. This is what you're gonna get.
Just once, I want him to put on the Triple H glasses, come in, put on the glasses, pull out a piece of paper from his pocket, and just start doing the Triple H reading. The greatest record attendance of all time. Just got to run these points off.
Yeah,
he should
I
just
had
get him out of the way.
I did have a man give me a kiss when I was going to the restroom.
Happy
Came
New
over
Year.
and he goes,
Boy.
Andrew effing Zarian, and it was this big Italian boy, and he's like, I need to give you a hug, and I'm like, all right, dude, I'll give you a hug, and he gave me a nice kiss on the cheek. Big hug. It was the warmest hug ever. I have no idea what his name was. No idea who he was.
Hold on. In the bathroom or out of the bathroom?
No. I wasn't in the bathroom.
Okay, you said you were going to the bathroom.
I was going to the bathroom.
You were walking to the bathroom.
May have liked it a little bit more if it was in the restroom.
You listen, buddy, you can do whatever you want. We're a very open and inclusive place. I end every show saying, ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary. So I get it. But you know,
nobody could see this, right? That if I type in this private chat.
Correct.
No,
as long as you type it in the private chat and not in
as long as you put it in the private chat.
Okay. That's
okay.
All right.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have bought that one either.
Yeah.
It'd have been fun.
I definitely don't think CM Punk was ever going to be one of the goons. So that was definitely that was a weird test to give you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, it would have been great. It would have been a nice Rick Rude moment, you know?
It would have, yeah.
But overall, you know, I had fun. I was there with Rich. We got a little zooted. We had a good time. I started singing Billy Joel at one point as loud as I could.
Nice.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Good. I was harassing the people in front of me. There were some media people in front of me, and I was just tormenting them the entirety of the show.
Wait a minute. Were they our people? Were they our people?
No, not your people.
Should have been. Caden Creston deserved to be taken down a peg.
It was somebody from media. Okay, not on the wrestling side, on like this, like
serious media, the real media.
And I swear to God, I swear on my children, this is what I did. I go, Rich, look what I'm gonna do, and I pulled a hair strand out of his head. I'm not even kidding you because I'm sick. I'm out of my mind. And he's like, what the hell was that? I'm like, oh no, I'm keeping this. I'm building a doll. I'm building a doll.
So you gonna grow your own in a jar?
For the rest of the night. I didn't say one word to him for the rest of the night. I just put it in my pocket. And I said, how do your knees feel? And he goes, fine. I said, let me know how they feel tomorrow. And I walked and I left the show. That's how I ended. I swear to you.
You're such a dick.
Sorry, what are you doing?
I'm sick. I have a problem. I have a real problem. Joel has seen me do this. Rich and I drew a photo of him on the plane when we were going to Vegas of us drowning him.
And what did I do? And what did I do in Las Vegas? I drowned my sorrows. That's
true. You drowned your sorrows.
So like you were halfway there, but I just took advantage of it.
Yeah. But it was a fun show. I had a good time.
Good. I'm glad.
Glad you had a good time.
Yeah, I'll let you guys be. I wish you all the luck this year, all the prosperity with the show. This is one of my favorite shows to listen to. And I think you're going to see tremendous growth. And congratulations on having a real journalist on your show after me.
See you Wednesday, Zarian.
Oh, the highlights of our week.
We love Andrew Zarian. That story, he just plucked a man's hair and then he's going to grow his own in a jar or something.
Nothing surprises me about this guy. Nothing.
I like that he threatens them almost of like, how's your knees? Like, let me know how they feel tomorrow. Like, bless him. Bless Andrew Zarian. He's a wild boy.
He is. He is wild. He's a good boy. He should come to Vegas. Because he brought it up, this was an elite-less pay-per-view.
Yeah.
No Hangman, no Young Bucks. Kenny Omega obviously is out. He's injured. That does put a damper on the show, at least. What did you think? Was that something that, like, did you notice it? Was it something that, like, you kind of drew attention to, or was it just they're not there? Kenny is obvious, but the other three, was it something you thought about?
No, not really.
That's fair. That's fair.
Kenny wasn't there because Kenny, he's healing with diverticulitis. Best wishes to Kenny. But the Bucks have been off TV since Full Gear. Swerve got attacked in that parking lot thing, and he wasn't even. He did the Texas Death Match. He did have the match with Roddy Strong, but like he hasn't been like a big focal point on TV, especially since the parking lot attack. He hasn't been on TV, so I didn't think much of them not being there. It was. Yeah, I really didn't think much of it. I don't like saying this because their name is in the company. They've kind of been a non-factor for a good chunk of the year throughout various stages. Like, during the summer, they were just kind of doing trio stuff and everything. Like they haven't been in super prominent positions, I feel like, for a big chunk of the year. So it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, the elite aren't here. If they were there, they probably just would have done trio stuff. I don't know. Like, no, it wasn't. It was a non-factor to me because they've been a non-factor, especially since Full Gear, especially since the latter half of the year.
Yeah, it's been very strange. I harken back to like Double or Nothing 2019. The one thing that everyone said was, "Oh, the Elite are all losing. They're all losing their matches because they didn't want to start conversations and discourse about them putting themselves over because their name is in the title of the program." And here we are, 4 or 5 years later, and they're just not on the show. Again, Kenny, for reasons that we know, he's sick, he's out. But the Bucks aren't there. They're taking time off. They're rebranding, repackaging. If they get a haircut, I will die inside. It'll be very funny. Like, I mean, die in the best way possible. I will laugh. If it's like Hangman is Hangman. He's the guy that you say it yourself, Jeremy Lambert, every time. He is the guy that he's the perennial babyface. He is the guy that you can build this company around, but unfortunately we don't get him right now.
He should be, especially now. So let's go back to the Devil stuff, because that's where that was the big hook for this show. Not hook.
No, Hook was on the he was on the
Zero. Yeah, he was on the pre-show. Yeah. With using a broken hockey stick.
Yeah, real wood.
Yes, real wood. Hangman should he's got to come back with some real fire here, because you have Adam Cole, who's by far a heel. He's got his henchmen, he's got the Devil, he's got his group. Like he's a top heel. Joe is more or less a heel. He was working with the Devil. Like that's heel stuff Samoa Joe was doing. Swerve is a top heel. Moxley and everything kind of rotates. Bryan Danielson, they can go either or depending on who they're feuding with. Hangman was a guy who was taken out by the Devil, set up by the Devil. Hangman should be back, and he should be going House of Fire on Joe, because Joe was accusing him. He should be going House of Fire on the Devil. This is top babyface stuff right here. They cannot drop the ball on this. This is so easy to set up. So easy to set up. And I hope they do it. I hope they realize what is just easy to do.
Yeah, we have a lot of stories that we can tell moving forward, which is good. The Adam Cole stuff with the Devil is no longer a title story, or at least it's not right now. Samoa Joe walks out with the AEW World Championship. Adam Cole unmasks, is on the Devil. MJF is now out for the foreseeable future. I assume that we've written him off for a little bit. Plus, he's not on the roster page on AEW's website anymore. We're playing up the contract is over. Is he going to come back? General consensus, yeah, you'll see him, and then he'll come back, the big baby face, and be like, I signed my extension and I'm here to rid AEW of the Devil because I am the Devil and I'm better than the Devil. Whatever his story is when he comes back, that's going to be it. But for now, you got to get from Samoa Joe to Adam Cole as AEW champion, right? This is a championship match for Cole and MJF whenever that happens, right?
Well, that's where Adam Cole, and I don't like using the word transitional champion, comes in, or not Adam Cole, Hangman Page comes in to possibly take the title from Joe so they can get it to Adam Cole. Or you can babyface Samoa Joe out of this. People love Samoa Joe. They'll cheer for Samoa Joe. Like, Adam Cole's just a bigger heel. Do I don't always like that, but I understand. There's a way to get there though. And when you're dealing with a guy like Joe, it's very easy to get there because people just love Samoa Joe. So you can get there in that way as well. I don't know when Cole is going to be healthy to wrestle, because I think that was the biggest complaint out of this. And like, if you look at it, you see where Adam Cole was coming from and trying to destroy MJF, because Adam Cole was, before he came back as conquering babyface from his injury, was a heel. I mean, he turned on the Elite. He took out the Elite. He took out the Bucks. That was big Adam Cole heel turn there. And then he unfortunately got hurt. And then off the return, he was big babyface Adam Cole. So Adam Cole getting back to his heel roots, where he's better as a heel, makes a lot of sense. But when you look at it, it's like, oh, well, Adam Cole didn't really get the title out of this. You know, the Kingdom got the titles, but what did Adam, like, he got the title to Joe. What did he gain off of like being the devil? And he gained like just realizing that MJF sucks as a person, and he cost him who he was. He cost Adam Cole who he was as a person. And so now he's back to his mean roots of things. So like, I get that when it comes to Adam Cole being the devil, being the heel. He can take the title from Joe just by being more of a dastardly heel. You babyface Samoa Joe, but I think Hangman is maybe a transitional guy there.
There is space for the Adam Cole story to not revolve around the title for a little bit. There is space for, because again, you just said it yourself. Adam Cole is still injured. MJF is injured. We have a little bit of time until we have to bring them back together. People are saying Swerve in the chat. I don't know where Swerve fits in. Swerve can easily, I just saw Ospreay mentioned. Swerve and Ospreay, you can build that for a little while, have them kind of compete. Putting them in the title picture is one thing. Putting them in championship contention is another thing. I'd rather watch them figure out who's next for Samoa Joe and how we tell the story. Because again, this is the pivot question, Jeremy. We always have a question about how AEW pivots when they're dealing with injuries, when they're dealing with stories changing and just people changing. That's what we're doing. We're currently pivoting because we know MJF's out for a little bit, presumably. We know Adam Cole's not 100% yet, presumably. So now we have to tell the story that gets us to MJF and Cole inevitably meeting in the ring. And I wonder.
I don't think it's a pivot though, because they knew Adam Cole.
Yes.
They know he's injured. They knew MJF was going to go away for a while. It's not really a pivot. It's just it's a plan. What plan do you have to get there?
That is a good point. You're right. They did know for a while for both men. Anyway, our guest is here a little bit early. If they're ready, they can give me a thumbs up and we can introduce and get right to it. Otherwise, I can wait. I'm just going to wait until they do this. No, we're going to, we're going to sit on the air, dead air, until he's ready. How about that? Okay, he's giving me the thumbs up. I just wanted to make him feel uncomfortable. I'm sorry. Joining us now from Under the Ring and the USA Today Network, we're very, very excited to welcome the one and only Phil Strum. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing? Can you hear me okay?
You can hear you great. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Phil.
Good. Thanks for inviting me. Good to see you guys, Jeremy and Joel.
Yeah.
We appreciate you joining us here. Let's just go ahead and get into it. The press conference, the media scrum after AEW Worlds End. You were the man who asked Tony Khan directly, Chris Jericho, has he been under investigation? Let me set this up for people who don't know. So Chris Jericho, it was on Nick Hausman's podcast, Rumor and Innuendo. He put out some rumor and innuendo regarding Chris Jericho and skeletons in his closet. He, in the same sentence, mentioned Jericho as Harvey Weinstein. There's been no official allegations towards Chris Jericho from anybody. It is all rumor and innuendo, internet speculation, but it dominated the conversation on Saturday before the pay-per-view. Chris Jericho got NDA chance. It was a big topic among certainly the online fan base, and Kylie Ray did leave a heart message on one of the posts in kind of an accusation towards Jericho, which does not confirm anything, by the way. I want everyone to know that it could have just been a supportive thing. It's not any confirmation. Nobody, I can't say this enough, nobody has issued an official allegation or come out and said anything official regarding Chris Jericho. Can't say that enough. Jericho has not commented on it. Regardless, it dominated the conversation at the press scrum. Tony Khan, in the while talking to Julia Hart, Kevin from PWI asked, like, hey, there's been a lot of talk about sexual harassment and safety regarding female workers backstage. What does AEW do to combat that? Tony Khan said, we're the safest environment in wrestling. We look at our track record. We have a great record. We're the safest wrestling company in the world. Later in the press scrum, when it was just Tony, Phil, you asked Chris Jericho, you didn't beat around the bush. Jericho's been subject to a lot of internet speculation. Has anything been brought when it comes to Chris Jericho? Has Jericho been under any investigation? And Tony said, can't comment on internet rumor. We're the safest wrestling company. So I just to ask you on this, like, what did you make of Tony's answer for all of this?
It was kind of what I expected to get out of him. I think it's important for the media that's in those scrum rooms to be able to ask difficult, newsy questions. I think there's plenty of people in there that are there for different reasons. That's not for me to decide or judge. That's for AWPR to decide who they want in the room asking the questions. But, for me that morning, that started bubbling up on Twitter. And, you don't know if you don't know. So, you have that access to Tony Khan. I waited for the time for him to be by himself. It was not clear what order everything was going to go in, but I didn't want to put him in a situation where he had a talent sitting next to him that had to sit there during the answer, because it's not relevant to necessarily them to be the ones that have to answer it. So, it was the answer I expected to get. I think it's important for the media to hold the companies to account. These are multi-billion, multi-million-dollar companies, and they have a responsibility to not only the employees that they have, but also, hundreds of independent contractors that they use every single week. So it's important for those people that are there to have safety, whether it's an HR thing, whether it's a number you can call and for, with no fear of retribution type thing. He didn't really answer much about kind of what the process is. He mentioned the policy. The policy has been going around online a little bit too, but I just felt the need, there were other journalists. I could think of John Alba, I could think of Mike McMahon and a few others online, either during the course of the scrum or afterwards, who were kind of saying, like, this is what you need to do in these situations, because you have the person running the company right there and you have to be able to ask the question.
What was the general kind of feeling going into the room after the pay-per-view had ended? Because I know every show kind of brings a different group of people, not only coming into that scrum room, but also just a different mentality of what to ask or what's on people's minds. What was it like going into it today or to Saturday?
I did not have any idea what to expect. This was actually the first media scrum I've done for AEW, because I've never been to an AEW pay-per-view before this past Saturday. I've done some of the media calls that they've had leading up to the pay-per-views, and I've had a number of AEW and Ring of Honor talents on my weekly podcast, which is Under the Ring for Wrestling Conversations. But I'd never been in one of those before. I've been in a lot of media scrums before, just for my my normal work. But I didn't really. I knew what to expect from what I've seen of them, and kind of the free flowing way that they go and the length that they go. But I didn't really have a sense. To be honest with you, I didn't know a lot of the people in the room either. So I didn't know kind of who they were, where they were from, or what their media organizations were about.
Did AEW, because this is one thing that comes up, is people think journalists or just reporters or anybody in the room are afraid to ask these questions because they are afraid to lose type of access. You just mentioned, and I know from listening to your interviews, that you have a lot of AEW and ROH talent on your show. Were you worried about oh, I'm going to ask this question and now I'm not going to get any more AEW ROH talent on?
Not particularly. I think you have to be able to ask tough questions to people in power. I've had to ask tough questions to AEW and WWE people before, and I've never really had too many problems on the PR side of it. What's good about both of those companies, and I'll give shout outs to other companies that I deal with too that are very easy to deal with, from NWA to MLW and those and Impact too, is they have professional PR people, and if a PR person is worth anything, they will keep a line of communication going with the media that cover it. You're not, by nature, the relationship of a reporter and a PR person is automatically sort of adversarial. I told a PR friend of mine outside of wrestling a long time ago, like, if I ever need to write a tough story for what this person was the PR person for, I was like, you are a lousy source. If I can't get this story without talking to you, I am doing it wrong. Like, I can go find other people that can set this straight for you. So it's like, I'm not too, like, I did AEW PR, Adam Hopkins, John Schneider, like, I don't foresee any issue with those guys. They're both very good at their jobs, and they're both very professional.
I want to bring up this chat because I think this is relevant. You're in the media. You've done this for a while. Dave is saying, I think it's all in how you ask the question and not what the question is. Can you speak to this a little bit? Because I think this is something that our audience would benefit from understanding better.
Yeah, I like you said before, I just tried to ask it directly. I kind of also did see kind of the direction that the chatter about it was going online as I peeked at my phone a couple of times. So I kind of saw also what people were wanting to hear about. But I also didn't want to, at the same time, look, like you said, innocent until proven guilty. Chris Jericho has not actually even been accused of anything yet, technically. So, you're not talking about somebody who's committed a crime or has been arrested or something like that. You're going on speculation. Speculation, frankly, I'm not even sure I totally trust the source of. And, like, because I don't know where their information came from. I'm not the reporter on it. So, I just tried to ask it as directly as possible when I asked it. Those press conferences can be tough. Like, somebody said the other day, they were trying to drag other media outlets. And I was like, press conferences, those scrums are not a very good gauge of, like, journalistic quality. Like, because it's just, you're trying to figure out where your involvement fits into this format. Like, personally, as a reporter, and I haven't been a reporter regularly for a while. I've done a lot of it, but, like, it's just not where my career is right this second. But, like, I don't always, like, I don't like press conferences very much. I don't like scrums very much. They're not fun. Some of them could be awful. And it's like, I would prefer to have a back and forth with a source, if I need to, just a good conversation, because I feel like you get more when you're not trying to just jump over people and fit your stuff into what fits into the format.
I mean, you mentioned this was your first AEW press conference. I'm sure you've watched some of the media scrums in the past, but when it comes to wrestling press conferences, which had Andrew Zarian on, and people who watch these media scrums and you being there know, like, you have Tony Storm coming out completely in character.
Yeah.
Like, Tony Khan's answering the first question about this in the hat and the sunglasses, which, wasn't the best optics in the world. But yeah, like, you never know what you're going to get out of these press conferences, because the wrestlers, by nature, they are a character.
Yeah, and that's the problem with wrestling too, is that, and I've even found this in the interviews I've done over the course of my career for the last 16 years or so doing wrestling media, is just, like, wrestlers aren't, like, they need to find the line of what they want to do in the interview. And I have a news background, so I'm not really, like, when Tony Storm was up there, I was like, I don't even know what to do with this, and I don't have any reason to participate in this. I'm not just going to jump in and be part of the routine. I couldn't come up with anything that I would want it to participate with. I appreciate what she's doing. I appreciate the work that she's doing, but, like, it just didn't fit what I was going to be wanting to maybe talk about in that moment. I don't, that's the funny thing about wrestling though. Like, it's so different than any other genre, where you're talking to the person, but the person is also still kind of the character too, depending on how they play it.
Let's step away from from the kayfabe vortex, as I call it, known as the press scrums. Let's talk about the show itself. You were there live. You said it was your first AEW pay-per-view live. What was your experience like compared to other shows you may have seen before?
AEW does a great job with their pay-per-views. To be honest with you, I've been running pretty hard since I got out of there on Saturday night. So I haven't read a whole lot of the response to the show from a critical standpoint yet. Nor have I seen it on TV because I didn't order it because I was there. But their biggest strength is their big shows, and if they continue to do that, then they're going to be in good shape as long as they still continue to have good destinations for all of their big angles and their big matches. I'm a little surprised at the MJF finish, and then also my colleague from Wrestling Junkie, Rob Wolkenbrod, asked, I think they might have even been the last question of the entire scrum, what is MJF's contract status? Because that sure seemed like to me something's going on here if we're speeding to the end of this storyline and MJF is losing in the middle of the ring to Samoa Joe. And then I think it was Sean Ross Sapp that reported last night that his bio page came off of the AEW website overnight too. So, but those are the types of things you need to do in those situations. But overall, I thought the show was solid. I've been to AEW before. I've been to Dynamite. I've been to Collision. I've been to all the Grand Slams that have happened at Arthur Ashe Stadium. So, I've been to a number of their big shows before. So they always deliver. It's just sometimes it's just a lot. It's like you have to go into it ready to watch a lot.
What were some standout moments for you on the show?
That's a good question. Personally, as a Long Islander, I enjoyed getting to see Willow and Statlander one-on-one on the 0 hour, just because Suffolk County versus Nassau County. I think they're two people that the company could feature a little bit more in the future. Copeland and Christian Cage was just a spectacle. There were all sorts of things going on with that. The fire that went out and then they had to redo the table and everything. It's just classic. You don't want to do something mechanical in a wrestling match because it could go wrong, like Hulk Hogan's motorcycle or Eddie Kingston's explosion or any of the other things we've seen go awry before in wrestling. Eddie Kingston and John Moxley was a heck of a way to culminate that tournament. And it gives Eddie Kingston so much credibility in anything that he does now with all the wins that they've set him up with, beating Claudio twice, beating Bryan, beating Moxley, and winning those championships. And he's such a good babyface. Like, he's such a good natural babyface, and you just wouldn't see him if you look at him at the first time and be like, good natural babyface right there. But he's such a good fight from underneath, just gritty kind of guy, just a real person. I even liked his post-match thing that they posted. I think it was on social media where he's yelling at the guy like, "We're not doing a Martin Scorsese thing here. What are you doing?" But I really enjoyed Eddie winning that too, and I got to be there for Eddie Claudio back at Grand Slam too, so that was a fun one.
I love that they posted that video. It's like a 10-minute promo, and he's like, "We're gonna do Scorsese." He's like, "But you do a 10-minute promo. What are we doing here?"
They bring Giancarlo in there. He's like, "John, come on. Do it for me, Giancarlo. Come on." Very great promo. Eddie Kingston absolutely rules.
Was there anything off air that stood out, or was it mostly just the on-air stuff was good enough to get everyone by? Because there's a little downtime in pay-per-views, not as much as TV would have.
I can't think of anything that didn't air, or at least if it didn't air, I didn't know that it didn't air. I can't think of anything they did. It was it flowed pretty well. I'll say too, watching them at home, because I think I've watched every AEW pay-per-view to this point. They can sometimes drag when you're watching at home, and in person it seemed to flow a lot better. Even the scrum, I think maybe other people in the room might have had other thoughts about it, but I was kind of ready for it. So it a little bit dragged towards the last half hour or so for me, but it seemed like it at least had a a rhyme or reason. Just, a lot of times in these scrums, people just repeat themselves too. So you got to kind of get past that, like, because there's only so many different ways you can answer the same sort of question. So, but I don't think there was much off air that happened.
Let me tell you, at home, those scrums drag. They absolutely drag because it takes 40 minutes to get there in the first place. So like the pay-per-view ends and then we're just sitting at home and it's like, all right, can we start this? Can we move it along? Like, and then it never does.
For me, it was pretty cool to be in the Nassau Coliseum, in the back of the Nassau Coliseum, just because, as you can tell, I'm a lifelong New York Islanders fan, and I've been in that arena probably more times than probably any other arena anywhere, just in my life, having gone to Islander games since 1986. So like, it was pretty cool to be like working media in the Nassau Coliseum. So that was fun.
Yeah, I was going to say that building has a lot of history, but it also has a lot of problems, according to some people who were not having a good time there.
Yeah, I didn't really get to see any of that. I know somewhere in the past with Arthur Ashe, they had some of those same problems with the concessions and stuff like that too. At least on the first one. Yep. But the one thing about the Coliseum is that it's not heavily in use right now. Like the only things that are there, I think, are the Nets G League team, and there's a indoor lacrosse team that plays there. But it's largely been replaced by UBS Arena and other venues in the region. The only thing was UBS Arena. I asked this on the pre Worlds End call to Tony Khan, like why they chose the Coliseum. It's this old building; it's been there since 1972. But UBS Arena had hockey on Friday, St. John's Hofstra basketball on Saturday, and then Billy Joel's first concert in the UBS Arena was on Sunday. So kind of a full slate.
Yeah, you can't really bump Billy Joel.
No,
especially on Long Island.
His first ever show there too.
Yeah, exactly.
on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, which is massive. I saw some people who went to that. I'm a big Billy Joel fan, so I would have enjoyed that.
I'm a Long Islander, so you kind of just get. I don't live on Long Island now, but like you grow up with Billy Joel on the radio pretty much every 5 minutes on Long Island. So
he owns a stake in every radio station, so it's fine.
Phil, before we let you go, we're going to pivot completely out of wrestling because you are wearing an Islanders shirt. Joel and I are both hockey fans. What are your feelings on the Islanders this year? How far do you think they're going to go?
I think they're built to be a playoff team. I think they're a very strange regular season team right now. They have, at least I think they do now have more regulation losses than overtime losses, but I think they've been to overtime about 16 times this year already. So I like their chances. They kind of give you a headache every once in a while with a stinker like losing to the Penguins 7-0 last week. But they have great goaltending. They have good defense when it's a full 6 complement. And Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal have been really good together. Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri and Pierre Engvall have been really good together. So solid, decent 4 centermen, good 6 defensemen when they're all healthy, and really, really good goaltending. I think could take you a long way. They've got a consistency that they haven't had in a long time, the last several years. So
I'll get my first great look at them. I've watched a couple games on and off, but they play my team tomorrow. So
you're an Avalanche fan?
Yes, I'm an Avs fan. Yes, so we're playing well. I think we're tied for the top in the West, but blew a 4-0 lead to Arizona the last week. That still stings.
Former Islander Devon Tays.
Oh, love him. Thank you. 2 seconds for Taves. Oh, what a deal that turned out to be. You guys, I still rock with Varlamov. Varlamov gave me some good years in an Avs uniform.
He is the best backup goalie probably in the NHL. I mean, him taking that backup role for 4 years has been really, really good. Just because he's buddies with Sorokin.
So. Yeah, we don't talk about my teams.
Yeah, Joel's teams suck. So.
Who's your hockey team?
So I grew up in Ottawa, so I'm a Sens fan. And
former Islanders coach Jack Capuano.
That's right. and I've also got the Ducks in my camp. I've been an Anaheim Ducks fan since inception. Yeah, I got the Ottawa Senators, who are currently working with the coaching staff from about 25 years ago. And I've got a Ducks team that can't seem to figure out what they're doing without their top line. So here we are.
What's funny when Cappy gets, like, people criticize him all the time for his coaching. He is the second winningest coach in New York Islanders history, behind Al Arbor. Al Arbor is way ahead of him because Al Arbor also coached the team for like 19 years, but and won 4 Stanley Cups and 5 conference championships. But
Phil, I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for asking the question at the scrum. I know we in wrestling media get a bad rap online for not asking the tough questions and things like that, but you were there, you asked directly. I know you got a lot of praise for that. Well deserved. And I know the media, like, they pressed him. Tony got asked once, you asked again, he got asked again. He was going to give you the answer he was going to give you. Like, after that, you can only press him so much to just hear the same answer.
And I think it's up to other people to kind of do some, if they want to dig a little deeper into it and have some conversations about it and find out what the real story is. I think it's important for the people in AEW to understand what their options are for, if something happens, where do I go? What do I do? That kind of thing. For me, I just kind of felt like I was doing my job. I didn't really think it was anything that great, but,
the bar is low with wrestling media, Phil. Bar's very low.
But the problem is it's kind of hard to define wrestling media, much like it's hard to define what a wrestler is too. So because you have all sorts in there, and you were talking before about being afraid to ask the question. Like, I can totally get that for somebody who's never even been in a situation when they're in that kind of a setting before too. Like, if I say this, are they going to get mad? Like, for me, like, I can't really worry about that. If somebody's really going to shut access off to me, then that's their problem. And I'll figure it out from my perspective if I need to. Would like to just kind of quickly plug my show, Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. It's pretty much just half-hour conversations with me or more. Today is actually a New Year's edition with myself and one half of the tag team, and now Vic Delicious, who people might have seen in NWA before. Just going over 2023, looking ahead to 2024. Next week, I got Paul Burchill on the show, which is pretty wild for me. So he was pretty fun to connect with. But it's every Monday it drops. And like I said, just to not misrepresent myself too, because I saw some people were like, "Oh, Phil's from USA Today." Like, I'm actually not from USA Today, like the mothership USA Today. I don't work in McLean, Virginia. My podcast, Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations, is produced by the USA Today Sports Media Group, which is why I said that during the scrum. I actually work for Gannett, which is the parent company of USA Today, but I work for a different news site, in leadership based out of Westchester, New York. So just wanted to fully be transparent about who I am and where I'm coming from. They have the Wrestling Junkie site that's through USA Today Sports Media Group too, and I work with those guys too. Got to, give those guys a shout out to do some great work.
Wonderful.
We appreciate. Oh, go ahead, Joel.
Oh, no, go ahead, Jeremy. You're good.
I was gonna say, we appreciate you joining us, and I love your podcast. I love listening to the interviews every week. We try to cover it as much as we can on the site. So I've heard many of your interviews, and you do a great job with them. So thank you for all the work that you do. And I was gonna give you a chance to plug everything. Got everything out of the way. So Phil, we appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you for getting up early with us here. I know it's been a long weekend.
Thanks so much for the invite. I really appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
You too.
There you go. Phil Strum, everybody. Appreciate him. I know it was a long Saturday with that show, and then yesterday was New Year's, so I don't know how much sleep Phil was running on with that, but I reached out to him yesterday. He said he was down to do it, so I'm glad he was able to join us. And he did great work at the scrum. And like he mentioned, when it comes to just wrestling media and stuff, like, the bar is low with wrestling media. I think a lot of fans want, like, everyone to be, and we've talked about it, like, we want everyone to be ask the tough questions, ask the tough questions. It's like, a lot of people aren't there for that. They're just content creators there to get content, and they're not trying to pretend to be a journalist or a reporter. They just want a fun answer. That's the kind of content they're trying to deliver to their outlet, to their fan base. And, like, we gotta be okay with that in a lot of instances. Now, do I think had they gone the entire press scrum and nobody asked about it, then we got an issue. But he got asked multiple times. He gave the answer he gave, But people got to realize that not everyone is there to play big time reporter, not play, but you know what I mean? Not everyone is there to be this big reporter, journalist, like ask the tough questions. Some people are there to ask about Taylor Swift.
This is something that I personally, I don't struggle with it. I don't want to, because I think struggle is a pretty intense word in this case. It's something that I think about a lot, is when I am in those rooms or when I am doing these types of events, not only the types of questions I'm asking, but also just like the way I want to present myself in front of a camera. I don't mind doing jokey joke stuff. We do it here and we do it with people that we invite on the show too. But there are times where we'll sit down and we'll have serious conversations with talent, with people in media and all that stuff, because it's important to have those conversations. And by the way, like, there's nothing wrong with being a bit of everything. Some of us, like, I'll take Sean for example. Sean breaks a ton of news, but then Sean will also do an interview and he'll, ask very important questions while also asking, some lighter questions, some lighter fare, because that's what the conversation is. That's just what the ebb and flow of an interview will dictate. And so I sometimes struggle with this. Is like, how serious am I? And I hope that everyone who does this finds whatever they consider themselves to be as a serious creator. They don't have to be serious as like asking serious questions, but serious in terms of taking this seriously and doing it with passion. Because there is a wrong way to do this. But when I say there's no wrong way to do this, there's certainly no way that you can do this that's going to completely like ruin you. But I think it's important that people who are out here doing it, I really hope that y'all do the research, and I hope that you guys come in with an idea of what you're wanting to present, because that goes a long way. And I've discovered that on my own journey of doing this. It's not just about sitting in front of a microphone and talking. It's about having those bullet points. It's about having those, the back and forth, and having just a general outline of what my content or my conversations are going to be and how they can differ from the others who are out there. So I hope the people who are listening who do this are also taking that into account when they go and participate in these events.
You're right. And like, there is no real wrong way to do this. There kind of is, but I understand what you mean. And you mentioned Sean. I'll even mention us. We've had a lot of people on here who we ask tough questions to, and then we pivot, they answer, and it's like, okay, well, now we can just have a real conversation and like we can have fun with it. I always like to bring up the Santana interview. Court Bauer, when he was on, we had to ask him some questions that, hey, there's some stuff going on with maybe releases with Jacob Fatu was the big one of him. Yeah. Like, we asked Court about that. And then what Phil said is very important. And I want anybody aspiring people to listen to this. You can't be afraid to like lose any type of access, because most of the time these companies, if they pull your access or whatever, that reflects poorly on them, not you. Like, no one is going to be like, oh, I can't believe they pulled the access because he asked us too tough a question. They should pull his access. Nobody's going to say that. As long as you're asking in a respectful and correct way, you can't just like, gung-ho of like, why have you done this? Why have you done that? Like, be adversarial, be aggressive with how you ask. You can ask the question, you get the answer. If you need to press, you press, and then you move on from it. Like, no company is going to be like, oh, he asked a tough question, make sure he never talks to anybody again. And if they do, again, that says more about them than it does you. If they can't deal with a question like this, then they probably shouldn't be out there. They shouldn't be in front of the camera. They shouldn't be asked to do these interviews or anything. Because for the most part, if it's out there, they probably, and they're willing to do an interview or something, they probably know they're going to get asked about it. Triple H, excuse me, Triple H, easy example. He did a radio interview. He does a media call. He's expecting to get asked about CM Punk when the CM Punk stuff comes up. He wasn't.
He's prepped by the PR team to do this, by the way.
Yes, like, it's probably coming. So they give the answer they're going to give, and then you move on from it. And again, you press if you need to, or you ask another question. But like, they're ready for it. And if they pull access, then that's on them. That's not on you. But I understand that a content creator who doesn't care about that kind of stuff and isn't isn't in that kind of line and just wants like a fun answer isn't going to ask about that. It's all about what you're trying to present and what you're trying to do. I think there's different ways, and wrestling is so like we mentioned, like there's characters in wrestling, so it can be difficult when it comes to that. I understand why Kevin asked while Julia Hart was up there, because you don't know if you're going to get a question with one-on-one with Tony. You don't know if you're going to be able to ask a question then, and you don't want to, if you're willing to ask the question, you got to ask it. You can't expect, oh, well, what if somebody else is going to ask? I don't need to ask because somebody else is going to ask. You can't expect that. If you're willing to ask, you got to ask it. Like it's that simple. So I understand why Kevin wanted to ask then while Julia Hart was up there. And I understand why Phil wanted to wait until it was just Tony to ask the question. I don't think either of them was wrong, because you don't know in that situation. Kevin probably didn't know, hey, I don't know if we're going to even get one-on-one time with Tony. You assume so, but you don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get to ask a question. If I don't get to ask a question, is anybody else ask? I don't know. So he went ahead and asked it. And I understand Phil of like, okay, well, now it's been asked. Now I can wait until Tony is by himself. I get both sides of that.
Now, I never, ever want to hear Tony say that AEW is the safest place to work ever again. That line, and I hope he retcons it, by which I mean I hope he just never says it again, because you cannot say that. When a few months ago you were saying you feared for your life. No, and you can't when you had a locker room brawl. You had Brawl Out in 2021. You had Matt Hardy concussed in the middle of a match with Sammy Guevara in All Out 2020. You had Mox concussed during the Grand Slam match with Phoenix, where Mox said himself in an interview, I wish I hadn't continued that match. I wish they had stopped it. You cannot come back and say this is the safest place to work, Jeremy Lambert. You can't. That's just it's a stupid hyperbole to use.
Joel, CM Punk's out of the company now. It's safe. That's why it wasn't safe.
Matt Hardy still works there allegedly, and so does Moxley. Moxley was in a
but they're not making it unsafe. They're not making it unsafe. Wow. CM Punk was the guy fighting people backstage. He was the reason why it wasn't safe. He's gone now. It's the safest.
My point is,
look at their track record.
Right. You cannot do that. And I think that he deserves that's the answer that I think most people should be giving Tony flack for, not for how he answered the questions about Jericho and allegations and all that he did that. I think he got exactly what he needed to say out of the way, but calling your company the safest place. I saw someone in the chat be like, yeah, but WWE killed a guy. Yeah, one time. Like, yeah, listen, this isn't about who's better than who. Nobody is safer. And I think that using that as an answer, as an excuse, is not good.
I mean, it wasn't, but that was just the PR stance. Him having the silly hat and glasses on certainly didn't help either. Like, it's not. It was a stock answer from Tony. It was an evasive no comment from Tony. I understand why he couldn't say anything about Jericho, but that was also an evasive non-comment, because Phil asked was Jericho investigated? Was anything brought? It was a yes or no question. He didn't give a yes or no answer. It was just, I'm not going to comment on rumor. Does that mean somebody did bring up Jericho? Yes or no? Like, it's a yes or no question, and he didn't give a yes or no answer. So that was the answer he was going to give. That was the only answer he was going to give. And maybe he'll be asked about it again. I'm sure he'll continue to give the same answer. Do you want to talk about this super chat? Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. Just okay. Someone asking, did Fightful? They're specifically calling us out. Ask Triple H about the allegations that Vince McMahon faced. I'm not going to read it verbatim. Don't ask if Fightful was the one who did it. You can maybe ask if anyone else did it, because we're not held to one single standard. Also, time and place. Do you want to talk about this real quick? Yeah, it's a pretty loaded question. No, I'll let you take the floor for this and answer it, and I'll provide any extra color. Well, I don't think anybody asked Triple H about it. Triple H doesn't do a lot of interviews. The only time would have been actually, Triple H was asked about this. Hold on.
I'm looking
I'll
it up.
look this up.
This is what we do on the show. We do live. We do live lookups.
It was SummerSlam. I don't know how direct Thurston asked. I feel like it was Thurston asked something about Vince McMahon. Triple H has been asked about Vince. Has he been asked directly about that? I can't recall off the top of my head. Maybe not, but when it comes to that, and this is where it comes to like, okay, what are you gonna say? They're not gonna say anything. So you have to ask in almost a different way to where you can maybe get a comment out of it. Triple H, Nick Khan has been asked, maybe not in a super direct way, but he's been asked about the allegation about just Vince's position with everything. And they're gonna no comment on that. So you have to ask in a different kind of way. And that's the other thing when it comes to these kind of questions is one, should you like try to ask in a way? Yes. But when you know you're going to get a no comment, you have to ask almost in a different kind of way to actually get a comment out of them.
Also, if this is turning into why are you asking Tony Khan about Chris Jericho, but you're not asking Triple H about Paul Levesque, or sorry, about Vince McMahon. Jericho didn't use company funds from his own company to pay off the people that alleged he did the actions to. Okay? Like, this is not what the conversation is. And if you're trying to turn it into that, it's pretty friggin' weird. This was a publicly traded company, and they were trying to hold Vince McMahon accountable for what was money going out for the things that they knew it was going out for. And I don't even know that's Triple H question at that point. That becomes a Nick Khan and the board question, which, like Jeremy said, was asked. In a situation with Tony and Jericho, whatever's going on there, that's unfortunately, in terms of business wise, we're not privy to that information. Therefore, there's only so much we can ask. And the way it was conducted was, again, rumors and allegations. So there you go.
Nick Khan's been asked about Vince. He's been asked about Stephanie. You're much like Tony Khan. He's going to give an evasive non-answer, but we're not going to pretend like these people have not been asked these questions. They may have been asked, maybe not in the most direct way of like what happened. Maybe they haven't been pressed, but they've been asked. They've given the non-answer to it. Certain people only have access to Nick Khan. Nick Khan doesn't do a ton of interviews. The interviews he does do, like he knows who he's talking to in these. Triple H, he doesn't do a ton of interviews. It's largely like these press conferences that he does these interviews to. And again, he was asked about Vince at SummerSlam. Could he be asked earlier in different ways? Sure. But it is there were actual allegations, actual lawsuits against Vince. You're way more likely to get a no comment there of like, that's a legal matter. You're really going to get nothing there. Where compared to here, where I thought Phil asked it in a great way of like, has there been any type of investigation with Jericho? And he got a no comment on that. Like, that's largely what you're going to get out of these things. I think people want the questions asked. The questions are asked. We can't control the answer.
I think people want this to be a lie detector test. They want them to be hooked up to a lie detector and, oh, he's lying. And it's not how this works. Unfortunately, that's not how this works. We'd love to get the real answer out of people, but unfortunately, just like we're talking about Triple H and the CM Punk rumors at the time, you're prepared for this stuff. A PR person prepares you for this stuff. They give you the talking points. They tell you what to do. Again, I made allusions to this. Triple H comes out at the beginning of his press conference to give his remarks. He pulls out his glasses, he pulls out a piece of paper, and he says exactly what it is. And yeah, lie detectors don't even work either, as it's pointed out in the chat. By the way, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and get your super chats in, because that's how we do this whole thing. We manage our expectations here. That's what we do. My expectations are a lot of money. But the only thing, by the way, I forgot to ask Phil the most important question, Jeremy. At other media events that he's attended, have they provided bottles of water?
Well, we knew Zarian already confirmed that There was no water.
No,
for,
but I'm
for
saying
this.
other.
Oh yeah, other media. Okay,
I want
can
to
tell you
get to
that.
the bottom of this. The answer is yes.
I can tell you that at other media events I've gone to, I've gotten food and water, drinks, Pepsi, Coke, whatever the sponsor is. Yeah, there's always that kind of stuff when it comes to media.
Come on, Pepsi. Let's talk. Anyway, let's pivot over to WWE. Unless there's something else from World's End that you wanted to get into. We touched on things, but we haven't gone deeper on things. Eddie wins a third belt. I guess Eddie's going to start, going and defending this titles elsewhere. That's the hope. That's the idea. Proud of Eddie Kingston. I thought, honestly, and I said this kind of half jokingly, I wish the third belt was a crown. I wish it was a physical crown so that we can crown Eddie Kingston the king of the bums and really play into it, King of the Ring style. But no, Eddie Kingston gets himself a third title. And I love that, again, the Mox match was so good. The last 3 matches on the card and the opening match at World's End, those were my highlights. I don't know if you have anything to add or if you want to touch on anything else from the show that's worth getting into.
I'm glad Samoa Joe is the champion. Samoa Joe rules. The finish was very well done. I know it shocked a lot of people. It shocked me. And then I thought Bryce sold it very well of like, I think it's over, but I'm not positive. I thought he did a great job with that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what AEW looks like in the coming kind of weeks here, because their next event isn't until Revolution. So they got 3 months, really 2. They got January, all of February to build this show, because it's the 1st of March. I'm looking forward to seeing what the company kind of looks like. Tony talked at length about, I was talking about science experiments, how the Continental Classic was good for the company and people love the focus on the in-ring and everything. Samoa Joe has said, we're going to focus on in-ring. So I look forward to seeing, what they do on television without the Continental Classic now, but still keeping a focus on the in-ring product. But they can do this. We saw this during the early days of AEW. This isn't like, oh, they're going to have to reinvent the wheel here. No, they know how to do this. It's just a matter of actually doing it again, where they got away from it in the months before the Continental Classic.
Yeah. Now the question becomes, what do you do after? Now that you've put on this 2 months of really, or 1 month really, of really solid wrestling focus, tournament style programming, you have a champion, but you don't have a Continental Classic to break down on and to work with. What's the storytelling going to look like going into Revolution?
A lot of titles, though. I got every match can be a title match.
Every match can be a title match.
Yeah.
Yes, Sammy Guevara coming back, getting the pin on Ricky Starks to set up Jericho and Guevara versus Big Billy Starks. That's a decision. Once again, I don't think Tony wanted to pivot again. That's all I could say to that.
He didn't have to. He
No,
didn't
he
have
doesn't.
to go with that.
He didn't have
He
to.
didn't.
But this is where we are. Well,
just put the belts on Sting and Darby.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Why? Why do you hate Sting?
That's right. The worst. No, my feeling with putting it on Sting and Darby means you got to take it off of Sting at one point. In his last match, I guess if he loses, that's not a big deal. I just don't see a world where putting the tag titles on Sting and Darby really helps the tag titles as much.
Yeah, they're doing great right now, just being on Collision and never being defended.
I fully agree with you on that statement. I think there are other things you could be doing. The winners of FTR versus House of Black, they should be going for the world tag titles after this.
Neither of those guys will lose, allegedly.
Well, yes, Malachi, he thinks that's a big pile of hooey. So there you go. His words, not mine. The hooey part. Those were his words.
That man's only had 2 singles matches since 2022. He didn't have any this year. And he only had 2 last year. Well, I guess technically, you know what I mean.
Hey, listen, the biggest winner last night, or 2 nights ago, Saturday, was also the biggest loser, and that was Andrade. Andrade comes in as his first AEW pay-per-view singles match since coming into the company in 2021, and he loses, but he also gets to go back home and go back to his wife, allegedly. Not the wife part, the go back to WWE, allegedly, and pick up where he left off and travel on that big new bus when she comes back in 9 months.
Yeah. He's maybe going to be at Raw tonight. Maybe SmackDown. Charlotte's a SmackDown person, so I
Well,
know like
right now she's
not traveling right now, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
Do you think that he gets the bus while she's out?
Yeah, you got it. You might as well use it.
But then you got to pay a driver, and you got to do. I don't know. That's part of the deal.
She just got paid. He's getting paid. The new deal. Like I feel like they can afford this.
Okay, so it's the Charlotte Andrade bus, the
Yeah.
Chardrade bus.
Sure.
Chandrade.
No, stop
No?
that.
Andralets? I like
Stop.
Andralets. No?
No.
Harlots?
Knock it
Andralets.
off.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing where he lands. But yes, that match, I think it was someone had mentioned like it felt like every match on the card was like in its own vacuum. That nothing had like a cohesive, this is AEW feel. It was just like every match was just its own thing. And I think about that a lot. It's true for a lot of the matches, they just kind of existed in their own world. It felt like a big house show almost in some ways.
Well, I think that's been kind of an AEW thing for the past few weeks is you got like your spooky stuff. This is where AEW and the identity crisis has been a big talking point, is that not everything has felt as cohesive as it did back in the day. And now they've got a chance to reset that, and it can get back to some of that. And I think in some regards they will. And then I think you're still just going to see sort of some stuff might be off kind of on its own. And you know, that was always the case, even at like the peak of AEW. The Codyverse was always the joke there. But even like the Jericho stuff sometimes felt like this was not AEW. So I think it's still going to be that. It did feel more prevalent than usual at World's End, but now they got a chance to get back to sort of where they were. And I'm interested to see how they do that with Samoa Joe as champion. They got a lot of good stuff set up, I think, with Joe as champion. I hope they move away from Christian and Copeland. Like, I don't know what else you can do there unless you are going to just put the title on Copeland for a longer reign. But like, they got to move away from that. That's been since the start of October. Now I don't need that dragging on forever.
They're going to do it one more time, probably a Revolution, and hopefully that's the blow off when Copeland finally wins. They'll put it in a steel cage or something. Again, they'll just this is why Adam Copeland is just that old school traditional wrestler. You tell it in 3 parts. The first match is a traditional match. The second match is a weapons match of some sorts. The third match is a steel cage because you had so many shenanigans from the second match that you got to go to one-on-one in a solid steel cage. And that's okay. That's the classic like wrestler mentality. And it'll be fine. Again, I think that was the longest match on the card, if I'm not mistaken, was the Copeland match, as is tradition. I'm going back and I'm checking. Yeah, there was a almost 25-minute match, whereas everything else was in the 17, 18-minute mark in the higher end. So if there's one thing that Adam Copeland's going to do, it's have the longest match on your big card. And they'll do a cage match at Revolution. It'll get people excited. And then Copeland will win the TNT title. And hopefully that'll bring back Jack Perry, and Jack Perry will team up with Killswitchosaurus, because they're definitely bringing that back. Not the Jack Perry, but they're definitely bringing back the Killswitchosaurus, Luchasaurus identity crisis thing. And I think Jack Perry's going to pull him away, pull Killswitchosaurus away, bring him back over, and they'll reunite Jungle Express.
Well, they got to get to a Christian and Copeland team at some point. Like, they're going to do it. We all know this. It's just a matter of when they're going to do it.
Canadian tour. That's what it's going to happen. They'll do it for the July dates out west. I don't know. We'll see. There's plenty going on, but let's shift focus. Let's go WWE. Raw Day 1 is tonight. There's going to be a huge Day 1 surprise, allegedly, but allegedly not if you're listening to Triple H on Twitter. So there will be someone other than is it someone other than Andrade? Is Andrade the big deal? Do you want
Andrade's not a former WWE champion. He's a former NXT champion.
No.
WWE.
But is it a former WWE champion, or is it a former holder of a championship in WWE?
I guess that can like lower expectations, but like if you're telling me former Triple H put WWE champion in all caps, not all caps, but I'm pretty sure I'll look it up.
Doing up right now. It says
WWE champion. The champion is the C is capitalized. That makes me believe it's an actual former world champion, WWE champion, like big time title holder.
Right. Okay.
Not
So
like hey, this guy's a former 24/7 champion.
Okay, so it's Sid. Got it. Okay, that's fine.
I hope it's Sid. I've been pulling for Sid.
Other names big on the list are Batista, so they can finally.
Dick me down, Big Dick Dave.
Does he bring Mr. Beast with him for that whole shenanigan?
If it's Dave, if it's Batista, baby, I'll have to record the reaction or something. Oh my gosh, please, Batista.
Should be Elijah, but he's not a former WWE champion.
Yeah, he's not a former champion. The ones are big. The ones the wife is asking me if I'm okay. Usually she's only privy to those sounds.
Whoa, here we go. We're not only in the weeds, but now we're in the weeds triple X. Here we go. Screw you, Shucky Ducky. It says Elias. This is Elijah, and this is a former Walk with Elias champion. You suck.
I've seen Big E throwing that around. That's a good one. Brock has been thrown around. Austin and Rock. I feel like if you got Austin or Rock, that's like advertised level. That's not tease level. I guess they teased the Rock, or they didn't even tease the Rock. They just did random Rock appearance on September 15th. So yeah, maybe it's one of them. My expectations are always low. They're always low when it comes to this stuff. You know, I can't expect too high. I don't think it's gender. I think Sean even shot down that it was like gender.
Gender would be hilarious. Gender would be 2019 Vince McMahon booking. That's what it would be.
The fact that like Triple H is commenting on this,
which I love, by the way,
it makes you believe like it's kind of a biggish deal, right? Like,
I don't think Toby Ziegler was ever a former WWE champion. If you know, you know.
Like, it's got to be a biggish deal, right? Like, it can't just be who's like a champion that like no one cared about.
Rey Mysterio.
Gender. Hey, look, people pop for Rey Mysterio, but yeah, he's already in the company. What if it's Roman? What if Roman just
no? Because then you got to release the what do you call it? The graphic.
The graphic.
Yeah, you got
Roman Reigns returns to Raw.
Yeah,
I'm all for Big E. By the way, if it's Big E, I'm all for that. Love Big E. He's coming up on like 2 years now since everything. Like, I hope he's back and healthy. The Undertaker would be a disappointing one. That dude appears enough.
What if it's Shawn?
Shawn Ross Sapp?
No, Shawn Michaels.
Oh. See, I don't feel like it can be like it can't. These guys appear enough. Like,
yep,
got to be somebody who doesn't make too many appearances here. It can't be like Bobby Lashley.
It's Chris Jericho. He's back.
On one hand, that would be something. On the other hand, that would be something.
Oh, bless Lawrence. Sam Seaborn was Intercontinental Champion. Oh, I am here for all of the West Wing references we can make. What if it's RVD? RVD is a former WWE champion.
True.
Getting into WrestleMania season.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the list here. There's a whole lot. Sheamus has been he's been off for a little while.
See, I don't feel like it can be anybody like under contract like that.
Big
E would make some sense because he's under contract, but like he really hasn't been around for a while.
Is it Brock?
I said Brock.
Yeah. What do you know? No Brock or Brock? Brock, Batista, and who's the other big one that we could think?
Goldberg gonna get his retirement match.
Yeah, I mean, he talked enough shit about it. Probably Triple H called him and was just like, I'm sorry about what Dad did. You want to come back to work? And they hug in the middle of the ring, and they play AC/DC's Back in Black.
Raw's in San Diego tonight.
Hell yeah, Shinsuke wants to surf. That's why there's no cage match between him and Cody tonight. Coward.
Should be a good show. I think Drew's winning the title tonight. I've said that. I stand by it. Drew McIntyre, I think, is gonna win the title tonight, and then they'll do the rematch at Rumble, and he might lose it back at Rumble. But I think Drew's winning tonight.
I'm in agreement there. I'd like to see that. That's the World Heavyweight Championship match, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. There's Ivy Nile versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. What is that going to be like? Is that going to build up to a Rumble, maybe triple threat? Ivy Maxine versus Rhea?
No. I think this is just going to be a Rhea victory, and then she moves on. Like, I don't know if Rhea's going to have a singles match at the Rumble. I don't. She might just, honestly, she just might enter the Rumble and is like, I'm going to win this thing, and then I'll pick my opponent for WrestleMania.
I was going to say that would actually be a good way to do it. And then you can also do Becky versus Rhea coming out of the Rumble, have Becky eliminate Rhea or vice versa to set up the match for Elimination Chamber. If that's going to be,
Becky and Rhea's Mania. Rhea's Mania.
Well, no, again, you think about Rhea Ripley, you're in Australia. She's been doing that media. That's a big main event match you can have go on potentially last is Becky and Rhea in a giant stadium in Australia.
Yeah. I mean, Rhea's obviously going to be on that card. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying there. Like, you want to have Rhea in a big match that's not that's not like a multi, unless she's just in the Elimination Chamber and wins that type of deal. But like, I'm not doing Becky and Rhea on Elimination Chamber. Then what are you doing for Mania? You're just gonna run it back at Mania?
This isn't real. They're never real. Please stop thinking that they're real. There's no leaked Rumble card. It's fake. Thank you.
Everyone does it every
year.
Yeah, it's hilarious, honestly. It's a good bit.
It's the worst bit.
Nah, it's funny.
Then we got to sit here and tell people why it's not real.
It's funny. I'm gonna leak one. I'm gonna do it.
It's just Nia Jax from 1 through 30 in the men's Royal Rumble. Free agent Nia Jax. NXT champion Nia Jax. Raw's Nia Jax. Speaking of Nia Jax, it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Nia Jax tonight. First time ever alarms going off. These two have never met in singles competition, so that's going to be good. Becky gets the big win on Nia Jax, or does Nia Jax beat Becky Lynch and then challenge Rhea Ripley for the Royal Rumble?
Maybe. No, I think Becky's got to win this match.
What if there's shenanigans and Becky loses?
No, I think Becky should just win. Let's not screw around here. Let's just have Becky win.
I tend to agree, but I mean, Becky's setting up a big relaunch campaign because she's already announced for the Rumble. She said she's in, so her taking the L doesn't make a big difference going into the Rumble. Nia Jax getting a big win and then challenging Rhea Ripley, being like, "This is me." Someone saying Rhea versus Nia at Elimination Chamber is a possibility. It is. Again, you just need to find a big enough opponent for Rhea that it looks like it's going to be a big match that's high up on the card and not just randomly put in there.
Nia Rhea makes sense. Makes sense for.
I'm a child.
Typically, I knew it when I said it. I was right when the words left my mouth. Like, it makes sense for like Elimination Chamber because otherwise, like, it's heel versus heel. But Rhea's going to be so cheered in Australia that like she'll be the babyface.
Oh, 100%. She should be cheered. This is the Rhea Ripley effect, though. Rhea Ripley, like, this is why it's so interesting watching some of these wrestlers, like Drew McIntyre, for example. He's a heel, but he's making good points, so you can't like you're kind of torn. It's a good emotion that's evoked with him. Rhea Ripley is the same way. She cheats not in her matches so much, but she cheats with Judgment Day matches to get them the victory. She is saying things that are heelish, but you can't help but like her, and she wrestles valiantly. Therefore, she's a babyface. It's again the shades of gray. Nia Jax
violently, she destroys people.
But sorry, explosive diarrhea. But Nia Jax is such a heel that like the big match is Rhea Ripley at home getting that big riptide on Nia Jax, who is much larger than her. That's a moment. And in a company that's based on moments, then I can see why you might run Nia versus Rhea at Elimination Chamber instead of at the Rumble. I would still do it at the Rumble, but that's me.
I wouldn't. No, because it's too heel versus heel at Rumble. No, it makes sense at Elimination Chamber because at least Rhea can be the baby face, but you can't do that match at Rumble. That's dumb.
Okay, that's fair. We'll see how it plays out. But meanwhile, the women's tag division, you've got Tegan Nox and Natalya versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Are we excited for Natalya to finally turn on Tegan Nox after they lose this match?
Sure.
Hooray! Anyway, that's Raw. And then the big debut or return or signee or whatever.
The big champion returning and possibly Andrade coming out. Everyone seems to be on that Andrade is going to be here, so we'll see.
Andrade versus Gunter or Andrade versus Logan Paul?
Well, I mean, Logan Paul's got to face the winner of Kevin Owens and Santos Escobar, which I assume is going to be Owens. So he's got that.
Oh,
Andrade
Santos Escobar versus Andrade. That is they've done it, but I'd like to see it again now.
Is Andrade baby or heel though?
When
Like,
he comes in, I'd heal him. I'd heal him. But Santos is a heel. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens.
Is he like with Ray? I don't know where Andrade fits in right now, because you can make him on Raw for right now, and then you can move to SmackDown whenever Charlotte gets back. Who knows? Maybe Charlotte will be on Raw if they do a draft and everything. Yeah, I'd have him on Raw. I like Andrade and Gunther. Like that's a fun little matchup. You can baby Andrade right for the time being, and then kind of go from there.
Does he get a new theme song?
Probably. All these people get a new theme song.
That's true, and they're all no CFO songs. So there you go. Anyway, we did it. People leave their thumbs up and their money yet?
No.
I'm still thinking about Nayaria.
I screwed up saying that. That's my bad, everybody.
You did screw that up. But hey, you know what? If nothing else, there's always camera cuts.
Camera cut.
Do you think it's going to be a better Raw tonight if Kevin's not in the truck?
I don't know what the product kind of looks like. Like
I'm sure as much than what we've seen for the last month. To be
yeah. I don't think it's going to change too much. Honestly, like we might see some smaller changes that are a little bit more noticeable over time, but I don't feel like we're going to see too much of a difference. And now, people can't blame Kevin Dunn for all the mistakes if they happen.
Last thing I want to touch on before we get out of here is actually a TNA thing, and that was the 4-way tag team title match. Mike Bailey and Trent Seven taking on Grizzled Young Veterans, taking on the Rascals and ABC. I'm excited for this match. That's going to be a good tag match. I just wanted to end with that because that looks like a very fun 4-way tag, and I feel like ABC should get the win.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, we're ending on what?
Yes. What do you want? Would you rather end on Nayaria?
No, but like, why are we ending on that?
Because TNA. Everyone's a big fan. So it's 12 days away. It's a big show.
Yeah, we got weeks to cover.
Yeah, I should probably get someone from TNA to come and join us for this week.
Yeah, that's your bit, Joel. That's all you.
I should probably send that in. You want to get someone from MLW for this week?
What if I've already asked?
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, fine. Listen, it's Kings of the Coliseum this Saturday, the 6th.
Saturday. Oh, it's going to be such a long week, Joel. Oh.
Are you excited? Are you excited to cover Hard to Kill, Battle in the Valley, and Battle of the Belts?
Oh, yeah. That's next weekend.
Battle of the Borts. I was, by the way, when I saw Lance Archer and he didn't win the TNT title match, I was like, oh, I guess there's no Battle of the Borts coming up. And then they announced that Battle of the Borts is the 13th.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's Collision, Battle of the Belts, Battle of the Valley, Hard to Kill. Yeah, that's going to be a long night next Saturday. It's going to be a long week, man.
You should come to Vegas. You'll see the shows earlier and you can get everything done, earlier.
No, I can't do anything. No, what are you talking about?
Well, you can just come over and, stay with me. And because it's West Coast, you'll be 3 hours ahead of what you would be normally. So you start early and you'll be ahead.
It doesn't work like that.
It's not?
No.
Huh. I got to send some messages.
Okay.
Are you trying to tell me that I have to be up at 7 a.m. for one of our shows?
Yeah. Good luck.
That sounds awful.
Yeah,
Anyway,
good luck.
plug stuff. Let's go home.
I don't have anything to plug.
Okay, well, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Not here. This is different. This is the monthly Monday takeover on youtube.com/Fightful. We'll be back on our sister channel, Fightful Overbook. Go join us there, youtube.com/Fightful Overbook, where we drop content every single day, including this show In the Weeds. We're on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern till noon. We usually have an interview. We talk about the wrestling. We talk about other stuff. I talk about time travel. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, I am Natural Pearl, and we'll see you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll walk for miles inside this pit of danger. I've swallowed down 1,000 years of anger. The weight of the world falling on my shoulders.
You know, if
Place where no one follows me, I walk alone. Boom! Big Dick Dave, baby, let's go!
Well, you just blew out your voice. If Sean ever gets that interview with Josie Scott, I am going to clip this for him. Okay, bye.